Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we gotta talk about something that I wish was over. I wish we didn't have to discuss in current year, in 2024, but that is, of course, the COVIDians raging at Nassau County because they just banned masks in public, and the reason why they did this is because criminals are oftentimes wearing these masks in order to hide their identity while they commit crimes. Now, it is the state of New York, but we are talking about Nassau County that voted overwhelmingly for Lee Zeldin, the Legend of Zeldin, actually flipped all of its congressional seats to the Republicans in that election based on the crime issue. But unfortunately, this is the best that they have to offer because New York State has that bail reform law and they refuse to change it in such a way that you could prosecute criminals. So repeat offenders keep getting out on the streets. So all these people can do at the local level is trim around the edges. But that's not really the main driver of me doing this story. The main driver of me covering this particular case is the fact that these people who are the masked people are absolutely mad, they're going insane, they're raging out, and they're very, very upset that their religious symbol, the face covering, is being banned or restricted by the county of Nassau. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, thank you to everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
If you wear a mask in Nassau County, you could soon find yourself behind bars or face a fine. County lawmakers passed a bill making it a crime to wear a mask or face covering to hide your identity.
So right off the top, just like I told you, Nassau County passes this ordinance restricting the wearing of masks. And I just want to point out that this story is funny for a couple of reasons, but the first and most obvious is we're now full circle. 4 years later, all these different states and local municipalities that were mandating that you cover your face are now trying to say, stop covering your face. But secondly, this went off the rails immediately. The reaction was absolutely insane because the COVIDians are a very strict religious sect and they will not be denied their right to cover their face, just like an Islamic woman would not be denied that right.
And their reaction to the vote so intense, police already arrested one woman they say injured an officer during a scuffle.
Yeah, that's right. We already have an arrest at the passing of this ordinance of a woman who allegedly assaulted an officer and injured him during a scuffle over some kind of protest of this specific law. And I just want you guys, again, to understand that this is alleged. This person hasn't been convicted, but look at her. Look how young this person is. Look at her face right there. Why is she even being accused of getting into a physical altercation with a police officer over wearing a face covering? We all understand that certain age brackets end up being more vulnerable to the virus. We all understand that through mutations, the virus has actually gotten weaker, not stronger. Yet this woman right here is willing to come to blows with a police officer, allegedly, over them restricting her ability to wear a mask in public. Listen, lady, you don't need a mask in public. Cut it out. I understand that a lot of people have gone completely off the rails and we have not reeled them back during the whole COVID-19 thing, but this is ridiculous and absurd. And honestly, these are not the people we're even trying to go after wearing the mask. Obviously, what is suspicious is all of these young males who are clearly and obviously not worried about COVID, who are all wearing masks, clearly and obviously with criminal intent, trying to hide their identity.
She's got the mask on, not me.
There was at least one arrest after a heated session of the Nassau County Legislature last evening when the mask ban passed.
So right here, you see a bunch of people are wearing masks in this Nassau town hall thing. And again, it's just absurd. It's over, people. Cut it out. Come back to normal. Come back to Earth. I know you were brain damaged by all the different strands of media propaganda that were forced upon you, but we will welcome you back, you normal, average, everyday humans. As long as you didn't do something too insane, we will greet you and we will bring you back into the normal world. Just show your face. Let us see your smile. Please join us in humanity. Join us in the normal world.
I can't wait till wintertime when a young black man with a scarf around his face is charged with a crime because a police officer thinks there is bad intentions.
Look, I gotta be perfectly honest. The reason why I'm covering this story is because of that guy right there. That guy who decided that he was going to come to the town hall to talk about this theoretical young black man who in the wintertime is wearing a scarf across his face who will be arrested because the police officer thinks he has bad intent. Obviously, this is not meant to cover winter coverings when it's actually cold out, you absolute buffoon. But yes, part of the reason that you need to have this is because young men and disproportionately black men seem to be wearing these masks, even though clearly and obviously they're not concerned about COVID at all whatsoever, and they're using it as a way to cover their identity while they commit crimes. We've all seen the videos time and time again. They are obscuring their face. They're doing it for a reason. It's not because they're scared of the virus. But here you have Professor White Knight right here coming in to save the blacks because apparently they're going to be persecuted by this particular law. They're the ones who are going to be negatively impacted. And by the way, even though the law obviously should be enforced equally, we know for a fact that the old Asian ladies who were wearing masks when they got sick or in the subway are not the ones committing the robberies in the first place. Obviously, it skews younger, the people who are using this in a not serious way, and what's great about that is those younger people are not particularly vulnerable to the virus anyway, so this is a clean bill that you can pass, that you can actually enforce with some intelligence behind it, that will ultimately, hopefully, lead to decent results. But in reality, since you can't hold anybody for anything, you can't prosecute anyone for anything still in the state of New York, it's not going to be all that great.
Wearing a face covering of any kind in public is now a misdemeanor in Nassau County, punishable by up to $1,000 or a year in jail. Exceptions are made for health and religious reasons. The Republican majority passed the bill with all 12 voting in favor and 7 Democrats abstaining.
Now, as you can see, this was a vote that came down on party lines. The Republicans voted in favor of this. And again, I understand their frustration. I understand them trying to do something about crime, despite the fact that state law really limits them in this way. So I can give them respect for making this decision on their own, but I just don't think it's all that effective.
Legislator Mazzy Phillip of Great Neck proposed the bill.
Terrorist supporters around the country, and especially in New York, are hiding behind the mask and terrorizing the Jewish community.
Now, I also want to point out the obvious right here that part of the reason why this bill was passed was not due to the criminals or anything like that. It was, of course, due to the protests, at least for this person who ended up supporting the bill. And while I don't like these pro-Hamastinian protesters, I find them to be absolutely clownish, and I do think they should be arrested when they commit crimes. I find it quite annoying that these people were committing crimes. They were dressed in all black, covering their faces as members of the organization Antifa, rioting all over New York City. I know this is Nassau County, but in the state of New York, they were rioting wearing this Antifa garb, and we did not get an ordinance like this. Now, you could say it's due to the fact that that was in the pandemic, and that would have obviously flown in the face of state law or state mandates that were issued. But the fact of the matter is, you don't help Jewish residents of the state of New York by only issuing protections when they happen to be threatened by protesters who, while I do find them disgusting, do have a right to protest. Again, criminals covering their faces while they're committing crimes, that should be something that you target. You should target the criminals and hold them accountable. But the fact that they're doing this for the Jewish students, which is not really for the Jewish students, it's to go after the anti-Israel protesters, it's just not a great look.
Democrats say they wanted a version that more carefully protects individual liberty.
I see the anti-Semitism on the rise. I see the hate on the rise. As a Jewish man, I fear for that. But I don't think that this emergency resolution is going to stop that, such that we had a race to get it done.
See, I absolutely do agree with this guy right here, and I believe he happens to be a Democrat since the Democrats abstained from this, and he's just right on this. He can see the different bits of extremism. He is concerned about that. He says all of that stuff, but the fact of the matter is they put in all these different religious exemptions, and a lot of times these pro-Hamastinian people are wearing that Hamas scarf that they buy from Amazon, and they'll be able to make the argument that this is religious in orientation. So what's going to end up happening is that these people will likely be able to sue Nassau County. Thus, just like the Black Lives Matter rioters and the Antifa thugs, they'll get paid for their rioting, paid for their crimes, which I find to be disgusting and ridiculous. Now, again, talking about criminals, talking about putting these crazy COVIDians in check, that's all fun stuff. But when you start getting into this is a backdoor end around restriction on protests, I have to be against it, even though, again, there is clearly clearly a problem with young males who are clearly not concerned about the virus covering their faces as a mechanism to dodge surveillance cameras so that they can commit crimes.
Civil liberties groups say the problem with banning mask wearing, such a broad activity practiced by so many for so many different reasons, is it creates the danger of selective prosecution. And exactly how this ban will be enforced is still unclear.
Look, like I said, while I am sick of these people wearing the masks, it just annoys me that they're not over the propaganda of the virus and all that. The fact of the matter is, yes, this is going to lead to potentially selective prosecution. Again, they're not going to go after the elderly Asian women that they shouldn't go after who wear the mask when they're sick. They explicitly said that they are doing this in order to go after the protesters that are covering their faces and creating a bunch of problems on university campuses. And honestly, a lot of those protests are more concentrated in New York City anyway, so they're not even covered by Nassau County. And to me, that is not a good use of the public resources. And again, it opens you up for potential lawsuits in the future. So while I do love the fact that these people are freaking out and these people are absurd in their freak out about this specific restriction, the fact of the matter is this restriction is just not well thought out, and the motivation behind it is not legitimate in my opinion. Again, if you wanted to go after the criminals, go after the criminals, but this weird end around, we're going to get these Hamasinian protesters, when in reality it's actually died down significantly at this point in time, but we're going to use an emergency resolution. I'm just not about it. I'm not interested in it.
The intent to commit a crime can be hard for a police officer to determine. So how do you think they will make that determination when they're out in the field?
As I said, I have absolutely faith on our law enforcement.
And here you have this woman saying she has absolute faith in the police of this particular area, but in reality, that is not a good response to what we're talking about. The specific concerns laid out are legitimate. And again, when you cut to the people that are in favor of this, they seem to believe that this is about regular, ordinary criminality. So there's a complete miscommunication in what we're even talking about with this specific bill.
Residents had mixed reactions.
Crime is good not to have it, because sometimes even myself, I see someone walking in a store or something, I'm like, okay, why you have your mask on?
I think it's a good idea to have the option to wear masks in public places so you don't get sick.
Look, overall, I don't have a lot of sympathy for the COVIDians. It's sad that these people are so lost to us, that they're still obsessed with this specific virus. But the fact of the matter is that does not mean that these people don't have any rights. That does not mean that you can just pass an ordinance for anything and try to address that by happenstance. You should address the issues with criminality directly. And again, the motivation behind this appears to be related to protests, which is never a good look. But I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. What do you think of the reaction from the citizens? What do you think of the motivation? And what do you think overall of Nassau County completely going into a reversal on the issue of masks, going from mandating it to banning it? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social medias, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute absurdity that is Nassau County's mask ban. Till next time.